So for those of you joining us, you'll get a chance to hear from each of us. So when we speak, we can introduce ourselves again. But if you haven't met us, I'm Kristen Brennan. I'm the Executive Director of Career Exploration and Development. And we also have with us Nancy Gibson, Director Advising, and Sarah Coateson, Director of Employer Relations. And so our aim today is to give you a sense of what we're hearing and also to take your questions and give some advice. So we'll each just take a minute or so to tell you what we're seeing from our different perspectives. And then really our intent is to take some questions, some of the ones that came in before the call, and then your questions that you use on the call. So just so that you know, if you haven't participated in a format like this one before, you can see that you can see us, but you don't all see each other. Just makes it easy to have a format with lots of people on the call that way. But we do want to hear from you very much. So when we get to the point where we open it up for questions, I hope you'll take advantage of the Q&A tab, where in there you can post your question, and then we can see what we're hearing and pull out the themes if a few people have the same question, and it'll get posed to us and we'll answer it. So that's the way the format will go. And we'll just spend a couple minutes at the top of the call. We may have some other experts out there we can call on that are on the call as well, so you might hear their voices too. So as we get started, really the reason we wanted to have this is we know everybody's in different places, literally, physically in different places, and also in time. You may be at different points of the job search where you've secured something and now you're hoping it's going to go through, or we're right in the middle of something when this all hit and it's kind of on pause, or you were just starting the job search and maybe applying to graduate school. And so we wanted a chance to give a lot of the same information and advice to people in one place and record it for your classmates who couldn't make it, and just be in a conversation with you, because this is not, one and done. This is the beginning or middle of a conversation we're in, I hope, where you're going to be able to take advantage of some of the resources we have because we can share them with you. So I guess I'll just start with, what we're all feeling, which is this is really tough. If you're feeling like this is tough, you are not alone in that. And you're right, it really is. I mean, we have had the experience collectively, all of us, of being kind of professionally engaged in the workplace at a couple other really tough moments, like 2001. 9/11 and 2008, the Great Recession. And so, that life experience helps us to help you navigate this moment, but it's truly unprecedented for any of us, just the abruptness of it. There's a grief to it that feels like 2001, and also a real suddenness that feels like, 2008 to some extent, and a pervasiveness. And so you're not alone in that. And our really first priority is to be there for each of you individually, wherever you happen to be. So I'll give, one piece of advice, and then we'll go around to Nancy and Sarah. My biggest piece of advice is that whatever you're doing right now, think about building your skills and your human capital. That's really what a first job out of college or your first graduate school experience is anyway, is investing in yourself and your skills so that you continue to be a really great contributor and someone everyone wants to have on their team. And so if you're finding like things are on pause right now, one of the first resources we put out, and we can share with you again where that is just some courses you can take, some skills you can build, some things you can do. And I know you're very involved in, school courses right now too, but as it comes into summer, one of the things I found with people who are in a long job search, which you might be, is just keeping busy and active and remembering who you really are and what you're really capable of by continuing to engage in work or something like work is incredibly powerful to remind you of what you're capable of. So that would be my big headline advice. And then I just say, stay in touch. So we know you're getting a lot of communications. We try to streamline it. I'm now sending 2 emails a week to the senior class listserv directly. So if you're overwhelmed by the amount of communication, start with that one, and it should have everything you need to kind of plug in when you're ready. So that's to get us started. I'd love to then see if we could hear just a little bit about what we're hearing from employers from Sarah.
Great. Hi, I'm Sarah Coateson, and I want to start off by saying how truly sorry I am that you're going through this, and want you to know that we are here to help. It is also a very challenging time for our employers who are trying to sort out what it means for their businesses and their employees, and as well as sorting out their hiring needs. But the really great news is that Bowdoin alums care about you and they want to help. Since Bowdoin made the announcement about us going class virtually, I have witnessed an outpouring of love and am hearing daily from Bowdoin alums and family members that they want to help you get jobs. So our alums have reached out. They have let us know that their companies are hiring, and there are definitely companies hiring. They have shared job leads. They have created jobs and internships for our students. They have even reached out to their networks to get jobs and internships um, uh, posted on our site. They are willing to serve as networking contacts, and they are truly going above and beyond. They are coaching when they have let us know about a job. They're willing to coach and champion Bowdoin students, and I think that's really special. And one thing I hear all the time from our Bowdoin alums, it's the same story. They say they are so happy to give back to Bowdoin because they'd say, did you know my first job came from a Bowdoin alum? And it literally, on every call, I hear the same thing. Two other things I just want to quickly touch on. I know many of you have asked if it's appropriate to reach out to alums, and I would say at this time, and I would say most definitely yes. There is no question. The alums want to hear from you, they want to help. I think it's important to be sensitive to the situation. You may want to start out your outreach just acknowledging sort of, you could just say, I hope this finds you well, or somehow acknowledging the fact that this may not be a perfect time. But by all means, I would reach out. And with respect to the question, should you reach out to an employer? I would say absolutely yes as well. I would check in with them. Whether you're in the process of recruiting or you've gotten an offer, I think it is important to touch base, to let them know you're still very enthusiastic and that you're flexible. You're willing to start, that you'd be willing to help out on a project or work part-time or whatever it takes. I would just open up that sort of channel of communication.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nancy Gibson. I'm the Director of Advising, and I also advise students who are interested in law, government, policy, and politics. I also wanted to echo what Sarah and Kristen have said. We understand that this is not the spring that you expected or that any of us expected, but we are here for you. Right now, our advising team is we're on a mission to reach out to every single senior to find out how you're doing, whether you've already secured an opportunity or not. You'll be hearing from us. So if you haven't heard from us yet, feel free to reach out to us, but you will be hearing from us. And we're here for you, even if your job search or post-Bowdoin search takes a different turn than you thought it would, we're not going anywhere, so we are available virtually. If there were a couple pieces of advice I'd give right now, it would be, be prepared and act quickly. Being prepared by educating yourself about what the opportunities are for you, and that can take a variety of forms. As Kristen said, she's sending out a newsletter twice a week. Many of you have filled out your career interests on Handshake, and so you receive newsletters from advisors in different sectors. If you haven't done that, we'd encourage you to go ahead and sign up for that. And there are also different websites and resources within specific sectors that you can find out more about by speaking with an advisor or going to our website. Being prepared also means having application materials that are well prepared and ready to send out immediately. It is important in this time to jump on things quickly when you see an opportunity posted, because employers aren't waiting until a deadline oftentimes. So by educating yourself ahead of time about what's available, looking at Bowdoin preferred opportunities through Handshake, especially those that alumni have sent us and that have alumni contacts listed on them. And we're offering many of the same services and more. We've just taken everything virtually. We have 30-minute individual appointments available. Our mock interview program is available virtually with most of the alumni who were available through the in-person interview. And we can help you find alumni for informational interviews or networking about specific organizations or companies, helping you with decision making. You know, if you're looking at a plan B, we can help with that, or just kind of figuring out what it is you should do next. So please, you know, we do have availability for appointments and you can schedule those through Handshake. So please do.
So we're going to take a couple of the questions we got in advance of the call, and then we really want to take your questions. So I hope you're writing some questions in now as we speak, and you're starting to think about what you have to ask. One question, just to make it really clear, Nancy, we get at the beginning is, can I still call you in the summer when I'm really ready to search, or in the fall?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we work during the summer and we always have. So your, you know, access to us doesn't stop the day of graduation. And we realize this is kind of an extraordinary time, and people's job searches may take longer than they had anticipated, or to feel like they have a settled plan. So we will be here for you and accessible by you. So all you need to do is reach out.
Great.
Nancy?
Oh.
Can I interject real quick? This is Bethany, for anyone that's listening and wondering who the ghost voice is. There's a question in the Q&A that was sort of a follow-on, and that was, how long will we have access to Handshake?
So Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe alumni have access to Handshake as well. Yeah, you don't have to have a bowdoin.edu address, but it would be a good idea once you graduate to go into Handshake while your bowdoin.edu email is still active, and change your email address in Handshake so that you don't get locked out. But if you should get locked out, you can just contact our office and we'll give you access again.
Yeah.
Good question.
Great question. One for Sarah, can we include alumni contact information in jobs that are posted if there is an alum willing to be contacted?
Yes, so we have tried very hard to make sure every Bowdoin preferred job that has been going up includes an alumni networking contact within the job post itself. And we have given the name, the contact, and wherever we've gotten any additional advice that was sort of general advice, we've included that as well.
Great. And another one for, I think good for Sarah. Is there any place that we can look to find out which companies have hiring freezes on or changes their hiring policies and things like that, and look it up?
So we do have a jobs, they have a sort of a document that is sort of crowdsourced list. I personally don't find it that helpful. I think in general, we sort of have better information about the employers who we speak with in terms of who are posting jobs and recruiting on campus, but we certainly could share it with you. I would take it with a grain of salt, in the sense of, even when a company has a hiring freeze, they may still do some hiring.
Yeah. And then I might just take these two quickly because I'd love to get to the questions coming in. Could there be some networking Zoom events for various industries? And also, could there be a resource for skills and courses and other things we could do to build our human capital, like I was saying at the top of the call? And so I'll just make you aware that both of those things exist, and I'll repeat them in the Friday email out to students, or to you all, to seniors. So on the networking virtual events, we are starting to run those. This is a tech industry one tomorrow, and we continue to be interested in what you need. So we are trying to respond to the needs you surface. We have in mind some bigger virtual networking events, or in a variety of industries. We had one in the arts a week or two ago that had already been on the books we kept. So just, we're happy to keep responding to what you need, and we're also starting to put those together. So keep your eye out for those. And then in terms of the guide to skills and courses, so we actually had each advisor go in and curate really good content that we think is high quality stuff, most of it free through LinkedIn or Coursera or other sources. So if you go to our website, just right to the landing page, it says get skills and experiences. There's a guide for the arts, for education, for like that. I think you'll find that helpful. Of course, an advisor can help walk through what you're trying to get out of the summer experience, but that's a good place to start. So I feel like now, those are some of the questions we got before the call. It'd be great to go to the questions that are coming in through the call. Bethany, if you want to serve some up to us, we'd love that.
Sure, there's some great ones in here. Should we be okay with accepting lower salaries during this pandemic?
Yeah. Nancy?
I can take that. You know, I think it depends. I mean, if you are looking for, you know, just kind of something that's stopgap until things start up again, if you're in an industry that doesn't seem to be doing much hiring now, you know, I think that's a different question than accepting a lower salary than is traditionally offered in your sector. I think you do want to be careful and come to us. We do help with salary negotiations, because what might happen is if you start off at a much lower salary, depending on what location you're in, when you go to apply for your next job, they're going to ask you what you made at your first job. Now, there are actually some states where asking that question is illegal, but not in all states. So you don't want to put yourself in a position where you'll be at a disadvantage going forward. You know, but I'd say if you are looking at an alternative to what you'd thought about and the normal salary range seems to be less than the industry you'd first been looking at, I think, you know, you have to be educated about that and kind of expect that certain occupations are going to have lower salaries overall. And it also might be that if you're accepting something that's part-time as opposed to full-time, it may not translate to as high a salary overall per year.
All right. How negatively does having a gap between school and work affect us?
I can answer that. I think this is unprecedented times, and it's so challenging. So I don't think anybody is judging you for any type of a gap, for taking a job that might not have been the job that you would have normally taken. I think you should just be kind to yourself and do the best you can in the situation.
Yeah, I also think no employer is going to, you know, ask you, well, why didn't you take a job in X field? They understand what it's like. They've probably been impacted by this just as well. And I think they're more likely to look at not what happened to you, but what did you do during that time? You know, what did you make out of that, even if it was not your first choice?
Yeah. Some people are being pulled by family commitments too. And I think, you know, as a longtime interviewer on the other side of this, and both sides, I've talked to people about, should I say that? Should I say, my grandmother was ill, my family actually needed me to be home during this time period, whatever it was. And to the extent you're comfortable with it, you absolutely can. Like, life is happening to everyone and everyone gets that.
All right. Do you suggest we use our Bowdoin email for job search and communication to potential employers, or move to a personal email address? The sort of the tag along question of how long do we have access to our Bowdoin email?
Nancy, you've got an answer. I can see it.
Well, I think you have access to your Bowdoin email for a year, but if somebody knows otherwise, please correct me. I think it's fine to use your Bowdoin email, obviously, while you're, you know, for a little while after you graduate, but when you're no longer a student, probably switching to your personal email. But really the first section on your resume for anyone at this point, so soon after you graduate, should be your education section. So they'll see Bowdoin right up there, you know, front and center.
Leah actually just wrote in and said, Bowdoin email through 6 months, October. So
okay.
Thanks, Leah.
Thank you.
Leah?
I would remind people to check their email. I think sort of response times is going to be critical. And so regardless of what email you choose, please be sure to check it.
Oh, and one of our other different Leah, says the 2020 class council is working to extend the email longer than usual because of circumstances and job search reasons. So thank you all, our people in the audience.
Terrific.
All right. Should we be willing to relocate for a job in the upcoming months?
I can take that. I would say willing to relocate. So if you have an actual job offer, the employer is going to know that you're out of state. And I think that's what, you know, many employers expect. Sarah and I were on a call with an alum the other day located in Seattle, and she knows people will be relocating to move there. And you know, employers are discussing with their incoming employees, well, we might have to do orientation remotely, or you might be working remotely for the first number of months. You know, it really depends what's going on in that actual location. if you're thinking about moving somewhere and then looking for a job, that might be a little dicier. You know, you're going to have to figure out, will you have to self-quarantine when you arrive? Is it possible to get a rental? You know, what are the rules surrounding that? But, you know, I think if you have a job offer, they will have already, you know, they have to talk through with you, well, what are the provisions if I can't come in person to work, or if you're still all working remotely? You know, if there may be different circumstances at play here too. So if, you know, if you want to get in touch offline, I'm happy to do that too.
All right. Will we have access to LinkedIn Learning and other services we get via Bowdoin even after we graduate?
Sounds like a Bethany question.
Yep.
Oh boy. The question, honestly, I don't know the answer exactly as to when those services turn over. Some services, yes, you would have access to after graduation, and some services are dependent on who's registered at Bowdoin as a student. And so it really depends on which service and when that turns over. But I'd be happy to find an answer and make sure we make that clear to you all.
That'd be great. I'd be happy to include that in one of the twice weekly communications. Whenever we do have that answer, we can just include that.
We just got one more. Can you give some advice to those of us who will start working remotely and will be working remotely for the foreseeable future, and touching on building strong connections with coworkers, how to ask questions, and all that other good first job stuff?
Yeah, I'd be happy to take this. You know, I've worked in person and remotely. I worked remotely full-time for 2 years before this current experience. And, you know, we've all been doing a little reading too to be helpful to you with these questions. And I find that you know, the best thing is to try to do the same human things you would do if you were in person, like the next best equivalent. So you still have set up some one-on-one conversations with people. It might've been coffee when you first got there, but it's not going to be coffee. That's 2 separate coffees, but your room and their room. But, you know, do those kinds of things. You know, make the rounds of introducing yourself is just going to be a different way. In a call like this, you know, do your best to check in with people in a human way at the beginning of it. You know, we've got this kind of format where we don't get to see you all, but if we did, you know, and our facilitating meeting, I'd ask how each of you are doing, or have an opening exercise that might drop people in before we get the conversation going. So to the extent you can humanize the kind of virtual situation you find yourself in, it also becomes helpful to set really clear expectations if you're the new employee and you're trying to do a great job about what it is that you're producing when you can't sort of see and check in the same way. So I would say the other thing you can do is get really clear and sit down with someone and say, great, what would be a great first month? Like, what would you like to see at the end of a great first month? And make sure you're actually really proactive about checking in about as you do those things, like, oh, I tackled that first thing. Here's where it landed. You know, here's my first product. Love your input. Like, just more communication about the essential things, like what you're trying to deliver, than maybe even under normal circumstances. Would anybody else add something to that?
I thought that was pretty good advice. I feel like we're so new at it. You know, I don't know.
I just say if there are any social things online, like happy hour or something, attend those. I mean, even though it's virtual, it's not the same thing, but you know, you'll feel more part of the team that way.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to reach out to one other person who's also new and say, maybe we should run some happy hours. Or, you know, a lot of times new people joining a firm, you shouldn't have to be responsible for all of that, but you have a certain kind of an energy and a desire to meet people. And like, you can use that to the advantage of other people's gratitude that you set something like that up, maybe even. So, we have a question from before. I think a couple more are coming in, but I'll take this one. Are CXC interns still working with students is one of the questions we got. And I think maybe it might've been focused on peer advisors in particular. So to answer that question, we don't have the peer advisors working remotely with us at this time. We miss them. We're in touch with them other ways, but not working with you all directly. But I'm wondering if also in that question, there's a wish. And if there is, please feel free to put that in the Q&A. If what that question also is about is, would it be helpful if we put together like virtual front desk hour with Liz, where you could just check in and say what your question is and try to figure out how to get it answered instead of having to make an appointment? Or if we had somebody on Instagram X number of hours a week, just like cycling through questions that come in, would that be helpful? So if you have an opinion on that, since we have you here, I'd love it if you want to put something into the Q&A in response to that. And then feel free to do that. And then I bet it sounds like there's some more questions too in the thing. What have we got next?
Do you want a live question?
Yeah, let's take a live question.
Okay. What is the best way to network with Bowdoin alum of a specific job field? I.e., I want to see a list of Bowdoin alum who work in the field of education. I sometimes find it difficult to know where to start online.
Mm-hmm.
I think, first of all, it's great to make that first connection online if you've identified them through LinkedIn, or, I would say that might be a start, but also talk to the advisor in that sector. They may have information you can't find on LinkedIn. Maybe there's someone on LinkedIn that you don't know how to get in touch with, and they can help with that. And talking about a list of questions about what kinds of things might you ask them. Also on our website, which is careerplanning.bowdoin.edu, there is a tab on networking, and it's about how to find alumni, how to start a conversation. But I would say the best way after introducing yourself is really to ask them if they have time for a 15-minute phone call. It used to be you could go out for a cup of coffee. You probably won't be doing that for a while, but talking on the phone is so much better. And, things just kind of develop organically rather than going back and forth in an email. So I would strongly encourage you, if you can't do it in person, then a phone call is the next best suggestion.
All right. So if you're close to the beginning of your job search, how much should you adjust your search to current circumstances? Should I start as normal and then slowly take pandemic into account, or should I start my search with pandemic constraints in mind?
I can take this. I think it's a very unusual time. So I do think things are going to be a little different. And one thing I just wanted to raise to everyone is our alumni are showing us, they're bringing us jobs, and those are really great jobs. So I would get in the habit of regularly looking to see what is on Handshake under Bowdoin Preferred, and know that if you see a job that you're interested, I know Nancy talked about this before, you really need to move right away. Just sort of the speed. In the past, I would say if you were looking for a job and you were doing your research and you saw interesting opportunities, and you noticed that you had a couple weeks until the deadline is due, I would say apply, don't wait. That's not to say I still think it's really important to figure out what you want to do and have some type of a strategy, but as you see opportunities that come up, I would take advantage of them. Yeah.
I might add, it's a good time to reorder, potentially if you need to, your values as well. So sometimes when we some of you have been through an exercise like this where we talk about your career values, what are you looking for right now? Pay, stability, growth, learning. And those are all important in various different ways at a moment in your lifetime. So I would say I am talking to some students who have shifted their focus or broadened it of the kinds of jobs they think might get them growth, skills, and network experience that wasn't quite what they thought, but in a way that still feels consonant with the most important things they want right now. And it's okay if the most important thing, like stability, just rocketed to the top for you and it wasn't before, or being in the city where your family is. Like, that's okay if that just got reordered. Like, say to yourself, that's fine. And as somebody who took a job for 1 year out of college, hated it, and did a reboot, like, fine, I learned some things, and we all did, even under normal circumstances. So that part's okay too. Like, it's always easier to look for something from something, even if it's like a project or a class, keeping yourself a busy point, and engaged in something. So it's okay to do a something while you're waiting for the something, I guess, is my other advice.
Do we have time for one more?
Yeah, I think we're happy to stick around for a few minutes if there are a couple more questions. We know this is important,
So I've got a question in here that I think a lot of people have about what to do with that contact information that might be in a job posting that's Bowdoin Preferred. So one part of this is the order of operations. Do you email and then apply? Do you apply and then email? And then if you don't hear back from that alum in that job posting, what do you do? Do you keep following up? Do you apply anyway? So just any clearance or clarity on what to do with that contact information that's in a Bowdoin preferred opportunity.
You're muted, Sarah.
Yeah, thanks. So I would say, without question, you want to reach out to the alumni. I would probably, well, I guess it depends. I guess I would try to reach out first to see if you can get the alumni to bite. And people are super busy. It's a crazy time for them, but they are interested in helping out. So if you do not immediately hear back a response, I would go ahead and apply. In this environment, I would definitely include a cover letter, even if it doesn't require, the application doesn't require it. And I would follow up and I would let the alumni know that you've applied and that you would love to get on the phone with them if possible.
The other thing I would just add is if you can't reach the alumni and you have questions about the position, you can reach out to employer relations or the advisor in that sector, because you know, Sarah's been on the phone a lot with alumni, but often takes those calls with one of the advisors. So odds are we may be able to tell you something about the job, or you know, something that the alum thought might be important if you have questions about the job posting.
So that's everything that's in the Q&A, unless anybody has anything. This might be your moment, but of course I imagine that we will be happy to answer any questions in the future if they come up after this call.
Of course, yeah, and I'm actually going to also use this a moment just to preview something. The other thing we are trying to do is in light of the extraordinary circumstances, we're trying to create opportunities. So much of that is through alumni and family members and members of the community, as Sarah was talking about. We're coming out with jobs, internships that are open to seniors, projects, you know, work on a book project, all kinds of things like that. So please stay tuned for something that needs a little more detail and fleshing out, but it will be coming your way, which is we're also trying to make those things more affordable to do in some cases. So you saw the announcement about HBS Online Core, which I realize if you haven't thought of yourself as a business person before, might not have seemed for you, but as a nonprofit person my whole life, I might suggest you check it out. But in addition to that and all the other free resources, we're also going to be putting out some information about ways to get some scholarship or award money from CXD as a senior to do, you know, career advancing things, especially if you're still looking for a job. So I know that's not very detailed yet, but it will become more detailed. I just want I'm trying to put out the word anytime we have people with us to keep an eye out for those emails, which is where those kinds of things will get announced. So from me, so thanks for being with us. If there aren't any other questions, I think then we'll look forward to seeing you on Zoom at other times in appointments, and feel free to email us too. You know, we look forward to hearing from you.